Thank you for joining us for this very special plenary session. My name is Emily Cottrell, and I'm an assistant director at NISTS. Before I joined the team back in October, I spent 10 years as a registration and orientation professional at a small 2-year commuter campus. My position there was kind of strange, not just because it combined registrar's office duties and orientation duties, but because I worked with a large number of students transferring into our institution so that they could ultimately transfer out to a big research institution nearby. I love coming to conferences like this, and I get energized when I hear from other like-minded professionals who get it, who understand the complexity of transfer and are equally committed to making things better. So thank you for joining us. How's it going so far for everyone? Are you learning stuff? Are you getting some good insights? Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. If you are like me, you've already got pages and pages of notes filled with new information, terms, statistics, and most importantly, ideas you'd like to enact on your home campus. In fact, maybe you've had a big aha moment. If that's you and you submitted an aha card or submitted an aha tweet, or hey, even if you just had an aha and you told somebody, give me aha! All right, that's what we like to hear. So clearly there's lots of good learning going on here in Atlanta. But of course the flip side of that and the danger of that is that reality might be settling in just a little bit now. We've been out of the office for a couple of days and our emails are starting to pile up and we're remembering the big to-do list that we may or may not have left by our keyboard on our desk back home, okay? So the problem we face then as conference goers is not what we do here, but what we do after the conference is over. Someone has to beat the drum. And I hope that someone will be you. And that's exactly what this session is for. NISTS is very pleased to have with us a few friends from the Education Design Lab to walk us through an activity designed to equip you with an individualized, action-focused strategy plan to take back to your home campus, one of those critical pieces to embedding and sustaining successful initiatives that Kathy and Jenny pointed out. If this sounds like a good idea to you and you're ready to get started, I want you to turn to the person next to you, give them a high five. Wait. Don't, I forgot. We do not have enough Germ-X in here for that. So give us a high elbow or something and say, aha! All right. That is awesome. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to our presenters and let them tell you a little bit more about the lab and their special approach to solving the problems that currently plague higher education. In particular, they're going to tell you a little bit about their Seamless Transfer Pathways Design Challenge, an exciting initiative they launched last summer that has given them some very special insight into the importance of transfer pathways and partnerships and the critical role that everyday practitioners like us must play. So please join me in welcoming the Education Design Lab.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me all right? Wonderful. So these came in over the past several days. You may have written them down. You may have tweeted them. You may have heard someone say them in a session. We've heard policy matters. How we implement policy matters. What action steps are we taking with the questions we have in front of us? These transfer students we work with, we know they need a home base. They need a place on campus they can call home. So with that in mind, there's a time for introductions, but that time is not now. The piece of paper in front of you, hopefully everyone has a pen. We're going to go rapid fire through this. First, let's start at the top bar. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. Think of some of the ahas you've experienced over the past few days. And as you think of them, write it down. What's the thing you couldn't wait to text a colleague about? What's the thing that you went to sleep thinking about last night? Like, I can't understand it, but there's something important there. What's the aha that seemed so obvious until you heard someone say it out loud and you realized, we haven't been considering that? Okay, now you've got 4, or 3, hopefully at least 3. Looking at them, choose one of them that pops out at you. It can be the most interesting, it can be the most intriguing, it can be the one you most recently heard. Doesn't matter, just pick one of them. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes, and you're going to fill in the next box. The 3 to 4 words that describe the campus culture relating to that. So you're picking one of those ahas, one of those themes, and you're writing 3 to 4 words. What are the 3 to 4 things that sort of capture that when it comes to your campus and your campus culture? Okay, so you've picked a theme, you moved with it, you came up with a few words to describe it. Draw it. What does it look like? How is it visualized? Doesn't have to be pretty. Just get the sketch out there. What is the visual that represent those words of your campus and your culture related to that theme? All right, last box. So we've got the aha, we've got the words, we have a little understanding and a little visualization around that campus and the campus culture of those words. At the bottom, why does it matter? These can be words, it can be another drawing. It doesn't have to be a complete thought. Just put pen to paper. Why does it matter? And as you find yourself finishing that one, the one below that, how does it impact transfer students? Okay, so real quick, let's do pens down. Eyes closed. Deep breath in. Let it out. Eyes back open. Pen back in hand. Let's do one more. And this one will go through faster. Okay, you've got 3 other themes or ideas right there at the top. You've moved on from the the first one you just finished on. Pick one of those 3 themes. And go on to the next box. What are the 3 or 4 words that capture that theme when it comes to your campus and your campus culture? They can be the same words, they can be different words, they can be conflicting words. Okay, you've got a theme, you've got your words. What's the drawing? Visualize it. Okay, last minute for the last 2. Why does it matter? How does it impact? You've got the theme, it's swirling around your head. You've got the words that articulate it. You've got the image that visualizes it. Why does it matter? How does it impact transfer students? So, springing ideas into action. This quote surfaced at the keynote in a slightly different iteration, but this quote nonetheless. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Of the many takeaways you will take away from this play in 3 parts, for this first one, in just a few minutes, you've created themes, words, visuals, and you've brought it back down to earth with why it matters and what it means for transfer students in just a few minutes. That's something you can so quickly share with a colleague, share with a friend, share with yourself for later, in the time it takes to get a meeting started. So this is something we've been talking about for several months now, information overload. I know personally, whenever I go to a conference, there's always this sense of excitement of, oh my goodness, I meet so many awesome people. I talk with them and I gauge them. I follow them on Twitter and sometimes they follow me back. I get so many things, so many pieces of paper, so many business cards, so many new ideas germinating. And the plane ride home is exciting because I'm thinking of those people I've just met, those ideas I've just engaged, and I'm wondering, what am I going to do? What's next? And then Monday rolls around. There's a few emails that need to be responded to. There's a class I need to go take. There's a meeting I need to sit in. And all of these things I'd been so excited about and piled up are now on my bedside stand, gathering dust. It's a reminder of all that excitement that I knew that I had, but every day I'm losing it a little bit more. And there's that sense of guilt of, oh, this always happens. And I know that part of it is I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have something to do with it. I was excited and I wanted to do something, but I wasn't thinking about how to collect all this and do something with it. Several months ago, we were all sharing that experience, us here at the lab and folks we were working with at NISTS, that is such a common experience, that folks go to a conference and share so many things, and there's not always that much action that we thought we could have taken. So we worked together to design this exercise, this opportunity, to start to change that, to say, okay, how can we convert the past few days into something meaningful? Now, the context for all of this, and I won't go piece by piece, as one example, is this concept of student centrism, focusing on the student. Is this focused on the student experience? Is this thing being considered from the student experience? How is the student experiencing this particular program? At the lab, our actual words, we call it the learner revolution, but every campus has its own iteration, its own articulation of something like this, I bet. So we say, okay, we spent all this day engaging all this information, engaging all these awesome people. And I know that one of the contexts, and this is just one example, is how might I make my research or the practice I'm converting it into more student-centered? In this particular case, transfer student-focused. So a little bit of background on who we are before we get skipping to the other exercises that'll help convert what we just did. So we are the Education Design Lab. We're a small nonprofit. We were started about 4 years ago based on the notion that higher education is going through all these transformations, and yet it is incredibly difficult to fix the plane mid-flight. A university can't just stop and change itself. And so what we wanted to do was work with institutions to help them visualize that and think about that and redesign themselves with that change in mind. And there's also an equity component to this. This isn't just about saying, can higher education transform generally? We've seen historically when there's no equity component, what happens. So it's really understanding how can we transform higher education towards the future of what we want it and know for it to be. Our particular approach, is anyone familiar with design thinking? A few hands. Lean thinking? Has anyone ever heard the phrase fail forward, fail early, fail often? So few, and that's awesome. That's part of our mission, is to spread that knowledge. All these kind of come back to the same concept of what you just did. We could have easily spent 3 hours brainstorming what are the different themes we came across, and then talked about what do those mean, and then talked about how does this impact. Our approach is about falling forward, iterating. It's coming up with the ideas, pushing those ideas through processes of thinking, what do they look like, what do they mean, how do they visualize, how do we articulate them in just a few words, how do we articulate them in longer words, and going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The way I like to describe it is design, build, test. In this particular way, you can describe it as understand, ideate, prototype, launch. Understand and ideate is when you consider what the problem is, think of the theme or the aha. You expand, what are all the different possibilities I'm going to write for on a page? And then prototype and launch is when you sort of filter that towards a solution. As you say, okay, I've come up with these themes, and now I'm going to pick a couple and go deep with them into visualizing and understanding them. In terms of who we are actually ourselves, again, my name is AlexWilliams. We have Leslie Daugherty and Binh Thuy Do. You'll get to hear from them a little bit later. You don't have to just deal with me, I promise. But yeah, I just want to give you a brief background on who we are and what we're doing. So with the Seamless Transfer Pathways team, this is one of the reasons we were brought into this, again, thinking about the context of the learner revolution and thinking about the context of moving forward. Several months ago, we started working with the Dell Foundation, and we realized one of the things we were both interested in was these two numbers. 80% of students enter a community college aspiring to earn a bachelor's degree. Does anyone know how many actually do? I'm sure some of you actually have created this research. It's about 14. 80, 14. We're not talking about pushing students through. We're not talking about a bachelor's degree is forever. We're talking about those who aspire to earn it and those who realize that. So with the backing of the Dell Foundation, we decided to go work with 8 pairs of 2-year and 4-year colleges, both of whom were eager to embrace this challenge as well, to say, how can we better, how can we redesign this transfer experience from the 2-year to the 4-year, focused on that student component. Again, in our words, the learner revolution, but everyone has their iteration, using a design thinking process. So that's sort of our larger project, and that's one of the reasons we were brought on. This particular project, here's what the cohort looks like. I have to do the shout out in case there's anyone in the room. Anyone from George Mason or Northern Virginia Community College? We have a couple right there. Anyone from Harper College or Northern Illinois University in Illinois? Not as many. University of North Texas, Collin College. I know we have a few. There we go. And last but not least, Miami-Dade College and Florida International. So my alma mater, George Mason, I think takes the cake. But we also have, I should note, it's actually not 8 institutions, it's 9, because the Illinois folks wanted to bring on one of their high school districts, realizing that this question isn't just about 2-year, 4-year. You've got to bring the high school into the challenge as well. So that's where we are. And I hope with a little bit of that background and seeing how that project has been unfolding and the work we've been doing, and you'll learn a little bit more about it as we go on, that this is both an activity and a learning session. I now want to hand it over to Binh to take you on to Act 2 of what you were doing earlier.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody, for being here on this second afternoon. I know, we've been participating in the sessions and learning so much, and it's really kind of challenging. And in reflecting on this quote again, do what you can with what you have where you are. One of the things I always think about when I attend these sessions is, you hear all these great ideas, and you have to wonder sometimes, well, that might work for this particular institution, but what about us? What about where I am? What about the things that I am able to do if it's at all possible here? And then your mind starts thinking about all the different constraints, all the different roadblocks. You think, oh, this person is not going to agree. I'm going to take this idea back, and you kind of almost convince yourself that it may not work. So in this next exercise, we're actually going to take a moment to really reflect and focus on this where you are piece. In order for us to really determine and really kind of be able to put a plan together on how we move forward, we have to really take a step back and reflect on where we are. And NISTS has provided us with this great opportunity and this great space in order for us to do this, and we're going to use it. We're going to take this moment right now to reflect, because we know that if we plan on doing it, I'll think about it tonight, I'll reflect. It's not going to happen, right? Because you guys are going to head out to the bar, and we're going to go out in the morning, and everybody's just going to want to just take off and enjoy the weekend. So while we have you here, the doors are locked. You cannot leave. We're going to take this time to reflect. And we also, when Alex mentioned the Seamless Transfer Pathways Design Cohort, one of the things we found, and we always talk to our cohort members, we always talk to the people that we work with, and one of the things they always say is the time and the space to do this is valuable. So again, thanks NISTS for allowing us to do this. So we're going to go back to the documents that you have in hand, and we're going to do this focused reflections activity. It's meant to be kind of an individual activity, but given the room, and I know there's so many ideas around here, we can definitely make sure that you guys can turn to a partner and talk as you do this. And there are two different pages to this. One is the instruction page, you can see all the words on it, and the other is the template that you write on. We wanted to make sure that you can see the instructions as you do it, because you're not going to be able to read it up here. But we're going to walk you through this and then give you some time to actually write down and think through. So when you first came in and Alex was walking you through the brainstorming exercise, you wrote down these ahas. You wrote down these things that, some ideas and how it relates to your campus, and then also, how it actually matters, why it matters to the students, why it matters to your campus. So I want you to start actually to take a moment and just reflect and think, what about you and your role? What is your intent? What can you do, and what do you mean to do? What are you trying to achieve when you get back to your campus, when you think about this issue, and why does it matter to you? And in the middle of your diagram, in the middle of the page, there's a little box that says my intent, and you just write that down. We'll give you a couple minutes to write it down. We gave an example here about the students needing a home. So if your intent is you want to create a space that students can call home, maybe that's what it is, and you put that there. But think about the themes and the ahas that you had personally, where you are, and then what you want to do with that.
Paul.
All right. All right, this is now the tough part. We're gonna give you guys about 15 minutes to do this. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna walk around and kind of peer over and be able to answer any questions that you have. But we're gonna ask you to actually work around the grid now. And using the guiding questions that you have on your document, you're gonna fill out the different questions in these 8 major categories about campus culture and climate. Again, thinking about what kind of climate do you have on your campus or at your institution that pertains to transfer student? What are your accountabilities, the issues and challenges that you have? What are your current capabilities and resources, your strong ties, your weak ties? And really, what are your beliefs about change? So again, remember, this is a reflection moment about you and where you currently stand. And what we want to do is get a good picture and a good assessment of what that looks like for you to be able to then move on to the next step in creating the plan for change. So we're going to give you a few minutes. Again, feel free, talk it out if you need to, or sit down and reflect on your own and write it out. It's going to be a couple silent minutes, and then we'll give you about maybe 10, 15 minutes, and we'll see where everybody is, and we can move on. Or if you need more time, we'll definitely do that. But use this space. We're going to capitalize and really use this space. Leslie is going to join everybody on the floor too. And if you guys are struggling and need just a little bit of support, put your hands up and we'll come over to you, okay?
So now we're going to keep with this theme of do what you can with what you have and where you are. So our third piece here is our take action piece. So everybody sees number 3, right? Okay, so now we're gonna go to this. So the first thing we're going to do is something really easy, because everybody, they leave, they're like, oh, what should I do? What can I do first? We're gonna check something off your list. The first thing you need to do is identify who is your primary accountability partner that's not here, right? Who's your person, right? You know that person on your campus that you've already texted like 10 times and you keep sending information and you're like, I really wish you were here so we could do this together. You have that person, right? So I need you to write that person's name down, okay? It can be 2 or 3, right? Group text works. Like you can send multiple people emails. All right, so write it down. If you don't have somebody, you can text me. That's fine. We're friends. maybe email. That might be better. Texting. All right, do you have your accountability partner? You know who it is, all right? Okay, now do it, right now. Text or email them. Come on, let's see your phones. You know, it's out there. I saw you looking. Come on, you got your phone. What? So, yeah, take a picture. So take a picture of your diagram, everything you wrote. Take a picture of the pretty things that you drew in your ahas. Let's see your phones. Over here, we have a very excellent, you can see our model over here of what you're supposed to be doing. Excellent job. We appreciate it. All right, let's see who else. We'll call out some of our, George Mason, are you texting people back there? All right, George Mason's got their phone. Colin, UNT, are you taking pictures? Are you texting your accountability partner? He's right. Well, they're not going to see each other on Monday, right? So text them. Let's get that out there. You can email. But this is important, right? Because you know you have that person. There's that person that when you are feeling fatigued by your 50th email on Monday, that's going to run into your office and say, hey, do you remember that email or that text you sent me? That was so exciting. Tell me more about it. You know, tell me more about what you're doing, what you learned. I'm excited. I want to learn from you. This is your opportunity. All right? Okay, so the most important part, not the most important part, but a very important part of this is you see that box after the text or email? If you did it, put a check mark in it, right? Anybody else like check marks? Check mark, done. All right. Okay. So now again, we're looking at how we can take action. So I want you to spend a couple minutes thinking about what is the biggest transfer opportunity that you have on your campus right now, from what you learned, from what you heard, from what you wrote down. It could be that intent. It could be another aha. What is the biggest transfer opportunity that you have right now? Does anybody want to share what the biggest opportunity is on their campus right now? Do we have any volunteers? If you're back here? Did we have a hand back here? Yeah. Oh. Yeah, no, I'll walk. Okay, can you say your name and where you're from?
I'm Michelle, and I'm from the University of California in Merced, and I think we could start a living learning community.
Okay, did you start a living learning community? Okay, excellent. So now what we're gonna have you do is think about where that biggest transfer opportunity is, and then we want you to take a couple minutes to think about what you learned or what are your takeaways from this conference. They're gonna help you inform that opportunity. So Michelle, for instance, would think about what did she learn in one of the sessions about living learning communities? What were the takeaways that she learned yesterday, today, or planning to learn tomorrow in this opportunity space? So we'll give you a couple minutes to do that as well. All right, next, we want you to take some time to really think about what are the networks and resources, what and who are the networks and resources that you can talk to about this opportunity? Who are the people that you already know? Again, this may be your accountability partner on your campus. This may be somebody new that you've met today. This may be one of the presenters who put their email address up on, after their session. How awesome is that? Everybody I saw was putting their contact information. They want you to reach out. So again, in your opportunity space, from your conference takeaways, who can you reach out to when you have questions? Okay, next, this one may be a little bit harder. I want you to think about, with this big transfer opportunity, what steps are needed on your campus to bring about this change? What are the steps? 1, 2, 3, right? Number 1, get off the plane. Number 2, go to the dean's office. Now think about it. What are your steps?
And on this one, you don't have to go all the way. It doesn't have to be all the steps necessary. It's what are your first 3 immediate steps to get the ball rolling?
All right. The next step is finding your champion. So who are your stakeholders? Who are the other accountability partners and stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders on your campus that may be the key to this change? We know, again, back to the quote, that we have to think about with what you have and where you are, so you need some stakeholders. Who are your stakeholders? Who are the partners? Who is key on your campus to helping you bring about this change?
You can really consider, too, if you've just identified the first 3 steps, maybe there was somebody there that you didn't consider before or you didn't think about. So within those steps, who can help champion this with you?
And the next question is, who's your audience? Who do you need to address to ensure the opportunity will be realized on your campus? Who is the bigger audience? Who is that? Where do you need to start? Maybe it's a staff meeting. Maybe it's your staff. Thinking about that. The next one is your pitch, right? So what is your message? What is your pitch? How will you make your case to ensure that this opportunity is addressed? What are you going to say when you have those stakeholders there? What are you going to say when that audience is in front of you? And this is a pitch. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. I always think about, what happens when you see that person in the hallway, right? That might be your time. Sometimes the only time is on your way. You see this person in the hallway. What is your pitch? What are you going to say to that person to grab their attention, to help them understand why this opportunity is so important to your campus? What's your pitch? This is the thing, maybe you email your supervisor before you leave today or first thing on Monday morning. We need to do this because this is why this is important. This is your pitch. If you're done with your pitch, try it out on your neighbor. I think that's a good one, right? We'll get it all out one time. Let's try it out on our neighbor. And then we can go back, see what they say. So let's try out the pitch on our neighbor. Maybe it's your accountability partner. Let's try it out. Okay, all right. Thank you, guys. How did that feel? Do you feel good about your pitch?
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
How are you guys doing? Do you feel good about your pitch?
We have our student volunteers here, our student ambassadors with thumbs up.
With
Hopefully
thumbs up.
you guys
Okay.
are having thumbs up as well.
All right, guys, I know it's getting late. So let's all give ourselves a round of applause. Woo! Right? So you have your pitch. But
Bonus question,
there's
guys.
always a bonus question,
Bonus
right?
questions.
There's always a bonus question. It's a lightning round. No, maybe it's not the lightning round. Thinking about...
She loves lightning rounds and bonus questions.
I'm so good at lightning rounds. No, okay. So here's your bonus question. When we think about how we're taking action and what we're doing on our campuses, specifically in our networks and resources, our bringing about change, our stakeholders and our audiences, how many people wrote the word student in those areas? Yay! You guys are awesome at bonus questions too. All right. For those of you who didn't, we want you to kind of take a second to think about it. It's part of what we do in our seamless transfer pathways and part of what we do at the lab is that we know we cannot bring about change unless we have student voice. We have to ask students. We have to ask them what they want, what they feel, what they need. We have to study their behaviors and their needs. We need to include students. So I implore you, if you don't have students anywhere on your pitch, anywhere in your bringing about change or your stakeholders or your audience, think of a way that you can add students to the equation. And speaking of students, we have the opportunity to make a difference in students' lives, right? That's why we do what we do, right? It's not for all the glorious money or anything like this is what we do, We do this to make a difference in students' lives. So we wanted to share a picture, and we're going to pick on our students because one of the amazing things about NISTS is that we have students in the room, right? So maybe, yay! So I know that perhaps they have other things to do, but maybe try your pitch out on a student. Think about that. Trying your pitch out on a student. But so this is one of our students, and this is some of the things that we do when we go to college, campuses. This was our partners at Miami-Dade and FIU. We were there last week. It was 80. It was beautiful. Sorry, got it on. Okay. Anyway, so this is Eileen, and Eileen is a chemical engineering major, and she is at the Miami-Dade North campus. Eileen is an amazing student, and I'm telling you, she's looking all Big Ten. So if you're Big Ten, you need to be calling Eileen. I'm just saying, okay. And I told her it was really cold in those areas, but that's okay. She was cool with that. But so we brought Eileen onto campus, and we gave her some pitches. We had our faculty, our staff, our advisors, they came out and they said, this is what we need to do for students. And Eileen said, yeah, I mean, some of that is great, but what about this? Right? Because they're on the ground. They're the people that we are impacting. And so the richness that she brought to the conversation, and we had more students like Eileen there, was amazing. And it was funny because you can read their faces, right? You're like, well, we'll tweet you. They're like, I'm like, okay, Twitter's out. Like, I need to know what's going on with our students. So it's just interesting. So they have to be a piece of this puzzle. They have to be in the room when you're making these decisions. So I'm gonna pick on our students back here, right? Because their ideas and their intent, I love it when things like all work out like this. All right, so we're gonna I'm gonna pick on you guys, okay? So can you kind of talk about when you were talking about your intent?
So my main what I was thinking about is just having students lead their own initiatives, and it's really important to encourage students to not only be vocal about what it is that they want, but help them create that, because they are the ones that know what they want, or they know what is needed, especially when it comes to underrepresented communities. It's not all about having these really fancy programs that require a lot of money. A lot of the times, it's simply just listening to students and having them exactly what was being said, having their input, having their advice, as well as being a constant conversation that goes both ways. It's not just something that is going in one way. It's not a one-way street, and there needs to be a lot of conversation. But it's really important to have the students know that you have their back, that you're there for them, because ultimately you're there providing these services that are meant to enrich their academic experience while they're at the whatever institution or in their transfer process. So it's really just letting them know that you're going to be there to provide the support and guidance, and it's important to also know that you're not there to make everything happen. It's not your job to implement the initiative and fully act it out. It's their initiative. You just need to have that more like authoritative, like, and really practice your skills of like making things work and providing the guidance so that they can fully carry it out themselves.
Great.
Hello, my name is Veronica. My initiative was basically sort of like a piggyback on Diana's, but it was more so along the lines of just kind of figuring out what we don't have on campus that the students need, like answering that unanswered question. So just kind of thinking about myself like as a parent, but also a full-time student. We don't have programs that we need, but there's a ton of programs that we want, if that makes sense. There's sports, there's restaurants, there's a swimming pool, there's all these fun activities that you kind of lure in the new students. But for those who have already been on campus and situations have changed, lives have changed while they're there for the 4 years or 2 years or whatever that they're at school, things happen, and there's nothing in place for those things that happen. People become parents, they lose jobs, they are hungry. Like, that's one thing that I've learned a lot about some of the students on campus. Like, we're literally struggling to find food, although there's tons of restaurants. So why is that? Why are there, you know, places where you would take our money, but there's nothing where you can provide something free so that way students aren't starving? I don't think that we should have to go to a food bank to get food when the school is there that has all these programs that they are trying to put in place where they can just kind of support that. Why do I have to go off site for a daycare? You know, when you're wanting me to be on school for night classes, but what about my children? Where are they going to go? So, you know, those types of things that I think campuses aren't necessarily thinking about, but maybe they should think about for more specifically for those transfer students, because they're non-traditional typically, they're older a lot of the time, and they have more than just, you know, their 19-year-old ideas of what college is like. So that's my viewpoint.
I'll make this really quick, I promise. My initiative was, I've been very lucky to be a Jack and Cook Scholar, and that has afforded me much more funding that I think I will ever be able to give back, and opportunities that I think I will never be able to give back. And really, it just came down to being able to have opportunities and funding that I didn't have as a low-income student and as a transfer student. So part of my initiative is being able to find a way to give some of that funding and opportunity back, not necessarily just to Jack and Cook Scholars, but also to other scholars on my campus that didn't have the opportunities that I received. So we're fortunate enough that we have a transfer summit at my university, and it's going to go on for the second year. And I feel like I could be that bridge between the summit and the foundation to be able to advocate for some funding for the summit, to be able to advocate for the students that are in Texas, because I feel like it'll help out Cook Scholars because it is a transfer summit and a lot of the students at UT are transfer students from the Cook Foundation. But also it's helping out colleges all over Texas where we're serving a lot of Cook Scholars and a lot of non-Cook Scholars that are in this process of transferring and finding their place and advocating for themselves. I think really at the end of the day, I think we've been able to see a lot of change at the University of Texas at Austin because students became self-advocates. They decided that they wanted something that would give them a place to be transfer students and to get those resources. And I feel like this summit and a partnership with the foundation will create more self-advocacy, not only at UT Austin, but through colleges and universities throughout the state of Texas.
Great.
Yes. All right. Yeah.
All right, deep breath, everybody.
Right.
How did everything feel? You guys are just ready to go, huh? No, but we thank you for spending these last 90 minutes with us today. At the very end of the day, 4:30 is a very late start for us to be doing this. And I know, we kind of sat up here and was scanning the room, and we were so impressed that how many of you actually got to the very end and wrote out all of your pitches. So again, a big round of applause for everybody here. And really what we wanted to, we wanted to take this opportunity to share this process with you again, to help you think through, what are some of these tools and methodologies that you can take back to your own campus? Because just think, at 4:30 in the afternoon, after 2 long days, you sat here and in 90 minutes, you were able to come up with an action plan. And we know that this plan may not be the perfect plan, but it's a really good start. I bet you it's a really good start. And if you were to take this plan and go back to your office, and now you iterate on it, bring in those resources that you talked about, bring in all those people that you identified, and start to rev on it. Test your pitch out. Test it with the students. How many people came up with the same solutions as the students? Ask a student to come in and do something similar. What would happen if you took these tools to your next team meeting? And you don't have to take 90 minutes. It might only take you 60 minutes to do this. Have people start generating ideas and see what you come up with, because we don't want to always have to sit here and plan, or we don't want to have to come to these great conferences and just think about all the excellent resources we get, put it into the corner, put it into a drawer, and then forget about it, and then think when we come here next year, when we're invited back next year, and we come and we go, oh, I remember you from last year. I remember we had that conversation, and then we hear all this information again, and we come back and we get into that same cycle. So tools like this, very little things that can be done in short segments, can really help. And knowing that we're not going to solve the problem overnight. We're going to take time. It's going to take time. And it's going to take a lot of input from our students and really understanding them. So with that said,
I do want to say, if you are interested in following the Seamless Transfer Pathways project or anything that the lab is doing, you can join our Innovator Network. It's really cool. We have lots of great information out there. You can follow the blogs, what's going on at UNT and College and Mason and all of our other partners and other things that we're doing. So go on there. You can just sign up with your email. You'll get some emails and things like that. So please feel free to join and be one of our innovators throughout our network. And thank you so much to NISTS for having us here.
Let's thank them for being here to help us through the session. So thank you for your participation and your attention today. I just want to let you know that we've got plenty of extra copies of these forms. If you want to take a couple with you back to your home institution, please take them and share them with your orientation team or your admissions team or your registrar team and create an action plan together. So feel free to take those. We'll put them out on a table there as well. Enjoy your dinner. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow.